Courtney, this is my son.
Yeah, I just started. Please take your seats. Howdy, Senate. Howdy. I call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And just in the interest of time, I want to note that tonight we have a lot of legislation, not just on the agenda, but also coming up for open session. So please be mindful that permission to preface may be denied, and also if you do back and forth, you'll probably be called out of order. So just keep that in mind. And with that, we will start with opening roll call.
SVP Brooks.
Howdy.
Chief Justice Khanna.
Howdy.
Speaker Wang.
Howdy.
Me, Chair Johnson.
Howdy.
Chair Wolf.
Howdy.
Chair Abdullah.
Howdy.
Chair Day.
Howdy.
Chair Black. Chair Cotomides.
Howdy.
Chair Olson. Senator Amin.
Howdy.
Senator Anderson.
Howdy.
Senator Andrus. Senator Arambula.
Howdy.
Senator Banks.
Howdy.
Senator Binky.
Howdy.
Senator Bredemeyer. Senator Brown. Senator Camp.
Howdy.
Senator Castleman.
Howdy.
Senator Christie.
Howdy.
Senator Chunga.
Howdy.
Senator Clark.
Howdy.
Senator Collins.
Howdy.
Senator Compton.
Howdy.
Senator Cook.
Howdy.
Senator Cox.
Howdy.
Senator DeGrate.
Howdy.
Senator Diamantouros. Senator Edmondson. Senator Evans.
Howdy.
Senator Hale.
Howdy.
Senator Ali Hogue. Senator Jillian Hogue.
Howdy.
Senator Hernandez.
Howdy.
Senator Hong. Senator Hull.
Howdy.
Senator Jacobson.
Howdy.
Senator DeYoung.
Howdy.
Senator Julia Krogh.
Howdy.
Senator Olivia Krogh. Senator Lisa Vaya.
Howdy.
Senator Little. Senator Mandel.
Howdy.
Senator Maples.
Howdy.
Senator McCabe.
Howdy.
Senator Maloki.
Howdy.
Senator Mendoza.
Howdy.
Senator Monroy.
Howdy.
Senator Moody.
Howdy.
Senator Moore. Senator Moreno.
Howdy.
Senator Musall.
Howdy.
Senator Ogier. Senator Pardo.
Howdy.
Senator Parker. Senator Peterson. Senator Phillips.
Howdy.
Senator Powell.
Howdy.
Senator Ramirez.
Howdy.
Senator Reveloso.
Howdy.
Senator Reza.
Howdy.
Senator Roberts.
Howdy.
Senator Rossi.
Howdy.
Senator Salazar.
Howdy.
Senator Serrato.
Howdy.
Senator Shah Hosseini.
Howdy.
Senator Smart.
Howdy.
Senator Siegel. Senator Sweet. Senator Tilson.
Howdy.
Senator Tran.
Howdy.
Senator Walker.
Howdy.
Senator Walther. Senator Warnke.
Howdy.
Senator Westbrook.
Howdy.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, we will now move into a period of invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Senator Hale. If you all could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Dear God, please be with us all tonight as we use our mental abilities and interpersonal skills and other talents that you've given us to shed light to the truth and to positively represent and make change for the fellow students here on Texas A&M campus. In your name we pray.
We will now move into a period of the reading of the mission statement and Ivy Honor Code by our longest serving senator, Senator Cook.
The Texas A&M University Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university and communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. ACA does not lie, cheat, or steal targeted to do.
All right, and now we will move into the singing of the Spirit of Aggieland. AD is down, so we're gonna be really quiet, but yeah.
Some may go to the proudest goal of the school that makes so grand, but there's a spirit in every soul. It's the spirit of Aggieland. We are the Aggies are we. True to each other as Aggies can be. We've got to fight, boys, we've got to fight. We've got to fight for maroon and white. After they've roosted all the rest, they will come and join the rest. We are the Aggies are we. We're from Texas A&C.
Thank you, students. We will now move into an approval of the October 4th, 2017 minutes. Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Seeing none, that passes by unanimous consent. We will now move into, sorry, I actually skipped the thing. We're actually going to do open forum. So, can I get the open forum sheet, please? So I'm going to be starting off by recognizing Jillian Hogue and Anne-Marie Wolf, who are here for Delta Gamma. We have 5 minutes, or yeah, 5 minutes starting howdy.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
I'm Anne-Marie Wolf. I'm Jillian Hogue. So we're both in Delta Gamma, so we just wanted to let you know about 2 events we have coming up.
Yeah. The first one's Backyard Barbecue. It's this Friday. Basically what it is, we do it every year. It's a barbecue to gain profits and fundraise for our philanthropy, which is Aggie Guide Dogs in Service for Sight. So tickets are $10 at the door. You can get them from one of us for like $5.
They're like,
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. She brought hers. Okay, but yeah, and then you get raffle tickets as well. And then we have some really cool prizes, so y'all should definitely come out for that.
yeah. And then on November 1st, unfortunately we have Senate, but during the time up from 7 to 8 in Rudder, we're hosting Lizzie Velasquez. Yeah. And she wrote a book, Dare to Be Kind, and so she's going to be talking about that and shedding some light on showing compassion to the world. She was born with a genetic disorder where she couldn't gain weight, and then she was scrolling on the internet when she was 18 and she realized that somebody posted a video and it was like world's ugliest woman, and it happened to be her, and which can really take a toll on you. And so she decided to turn that into a positive light and share her experience with others. So we're excited to bring her here and hear what she has to say. So even though we're going to be in Senate, y'all can share that with your friends.
And it's free for everyone too. So y'all should just, encourage your friends to go and just listen to her because she's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Any questions?
Are there any questions? Senator Clark.
Senator Clark, off-campus residences. I just wanted to know, again, I know you already said it, but where is the location again? Because I didn't hear.
For Backyard Barbecue or the lecture?
In Rudder. Yeah. So you can get a free ticket from the box office.
Are there any other questions for the presenters? Seeing none, thank you, ladies. Next, we will recognize Ben Johnson, who is here to talk about Subcode.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
Howdy. Well, I'm here to briefly talk about subco. So subco stands for subcommittee, and that is when senators go to Northgate after we get out of our Senate meeting to go meet each other, talk about life, and get to know other senators. It's really chill. If you're of age, you can have a little bit more fun. We'll be going to the chicken after. So after Senate, I'm just going to my suit. So if y'all could make it out there, it'd be fantastic.
All right, are there any questions? Yes, Chair Day. Chair Day, Finance. Will you be attending subco?
I will.
Are there any other questions for Chair Johnson? Seeing none, thank you so much. Next, we will recognize Mr. Ricardo Mercado, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, for PRSA. You have 2.5 minutes starting at 5 minutes.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
My name is Ricardo Mercado, and I'm the president of the Puerto Rican Student Association. Thank you for giving me the time to present today. My organization is proud to host the screening of an Emmy Award-winning documentary titled The Last Colony this Tuesday, October 24th at 6:30 p.m. in Rota Theater. This documentary is essentially an attempt for us to spread information on the complex political relationship between Puerto Rico and the United States, and is especially prescient due to the recent disaster that struck the island, the humanitarian crisis which is unfolding as a result of Hurricane Maria. In the coming days, you will hear more and more information coming from the island as power is restored and communication is restored. And we want to provide this educational opportunity so that the members of the United States can make informed decisions in order to help their fellow U.S. citizens in Puerto Rico.
And I really advise everyone to just share it with everyone within your organization. My organization have been sharing it all over the place because, like he said, there are always also going to be donations that are taken to Puerto Rico, and I just really, for a good cause, everyone needs to come out there and watch the film, but also donate supplies to send to the families that really need it. Questions?
Are there any questions for the presenter? Saying hi. Thank you so much. Alright. We'll recognize Daniel Austin Evans.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
In regards to the event that he just talked about in regards to the Puerto Rican Student Association, we'll be partnering with them for the event I kind of told you guys a little bit about. That's going to be happening on October 27th at Rota Theater. We're having basically a profit concert, and Stecky will be the main performance for that concert. If you guys want to come out to that, and that'll be pretty fun. And so basically what we're doing, the goal of it is to adopt the city. So I'm still in contact with some administration. We want to adopt the city of Puerto Rico, and then all our proceeds kind of from what we're doing at A&M through academic affairs and various other organizations will go to that city, and we'll be able to see as a school, see that city flourish. Instead of trying to like give money to Puerto Rico, we'll start with the city, and then we can maybe there's another city, but we'll start there. So that's basically where our efforts are going. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can reach out to me, and I'll definitely put you in contact with the people academic affairs, director of admissions, and we'll get the ball rolling on that. Or if you have any organizations that we're open to, want to be a part of this, we've had like maybe about 10 organizations already come aboard. So yeah, thank you.
Alright, are there any questions for the presenter? Senator Moreno.
Senator Moreno, College of Engineering. Can you donate any supplies, and if so, which type of supplies do you think you can donate?
We're still working on supplies. Kind of supplies is kind of shaky because of the plane. It was somebody at A&M who said something about a plane, but we're still getting that together. As far as me personally, through academic affairs, we don't have a link to the donations, but the advisor for the Puerto Rican Association is actually from Puerto Rico, and so she is our main link to Puerto Rico. So we're still trying to figure out if that's possible. But we're really shooting for the tickets will probably release around $10. We're looking to sell about 2,300 of them, starting probably Monday or Tuesday. And our main thing is raising funds and profits more so than donations, because a lot of times right now they have nowhere to put this stuff. So like the post office at Puerto Rico just opened up, and so they're taking all this stuff. So we sent something to Puerto Rico, and it took about 4 weeks just for it to get there after we sent it off. So that's a big problem dealing with trying to get the stuff through the post offices. So us being able to directly link to money, that's probably the best way to reach out to them currently with the island. And they're actually fun fact, Puerto Rico is actually going through the rainy season. So like next month is their rain season, which is gonna be so sporadic and more of that stuff to them because there's been a lot of rain coming up shortly. So.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you so much. That concludes the period of open forum. We will now move into the period of consideration for the confirmation of the Sustainability Subcommittee. Yes, Chair Black, to do the motion.
Chair Black, Student Services, I motion to move the table.
Okay, can you explain why?
I don't know even know everyone who's going to get a bonus essentially, to make sure everyone's on board and everything.
Okay, a motion has been made to table the consideration of confirmation. Okay, saying multiple seconds. All in favor of tabling it until the next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. We will now move straight into consent agenda, starting with SR 7007, Harvey Sears resolution. Are there any objections to the consent agenda? Yes, Senator Salazar.
Senator Salazar, proposed to Reject.
I'll go ahead and move. Are there any seconds? Seeing few, we will move that on to old business, and that concludes the consent agenda. And on old business, we will start with the consideration of SR 7007, Harvey Sears resolution. So if the presenters will please make their way down to the floor.
So today I wanted to present about Hurricane Harvey. I noticed that it is important to appreciate what others have done, their efforts that they did during the hurricane and the efforts they did before. First of all, howdy. Sorry. My name is Joel Salazar, College of Social Sciences. And co-sponsor is running late. Hopefully you'll make it here. So this resolution is long overdue, but unfortunately there have been projects and work that has gotten in the way. But that shouldn't mean that it's forgotten. I wanted to present Harvey by the numbers. So 56 hours. That's how long it took for it to go from a tropical depression, which is relatively harmless, to a Category 4 storm. Texas hasn't seen a Category 4 storm in a long time, around 50 years. 132 miles per hour. That is the highest registered wind over land, which was near Port Aransas. 60.54 inches. That was the highest recorded rainfall near Netherlands, Texas. And imagine a foot and multiply that by 6 and think about that all around you. That's pretty drastic. $180 billion. That's how much is estimated by the state of Texas that Hurricane Harvey caused, the damage. 100,000, that's an estimate of how many houses were flooded. 500,000 is an estimate of how many cars were flooded. So you may be wondering, why was it such a catastrophic storm? Well, as you can see there in the track, it went very slowly, and you may notice that Houston is on the northeast side. If you know a hurricane, you know that in the northeast side, that's where rain is focused on. And if you imagine a hurricane, you can, rain bands come in, and Houston was always in the northeast side. And of course, it went here, it returned back to the ocean, it went over here again, and it made a second landfall over Louisiana. So, I know other Harvey resolutions have been introduced, but I thought it was important that we appreciate what a coordinated response it was. So basically, first responders, those are the most important in this coordinated response.
Howdy, I'm Joseph Trujillo. I'm a meteorology student from the College of Geosciences.
So first responders, of course, like I was saying, extremely important.
And of course, the meteorologists that are on scene throughout the whole hurricane recovery process. We can see how much of an unprecedented event this was. As Joel just mentioned, it, this tropical system just pretty much expanded in sort of a matter of a few hours. And it was pretty much like unprecedented for our meteorological community. So for the meteorologists themselves to take into account such an unprecedented event, and then of course be able to calmly tell the situation to millions of people out there that were also uncertain about the situation. It was definitely a lot of pressure a lot of these meteorologists had to go through. However, they did take it in the best way possible. They rallied information out to our public and they made sure that everybody was held accountable for it. And whenever things got tough, because hurricanes aren't just about the strong winds and the heavy rain, it also has to do with a lot of the tornadoes and a lot of severe weather is also associated with tropical systems. And with that said, not only did they have to kind of take into account of when the landfall would occur, but also they needed to take into account like tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and all these other hazards. And they definitely stayed on the clock 24/7. I've heard stories of several meteorologists around the area that just slept in the station and made sure that our community was safe. And it's not only just about the broadcast people as well. It's also about the people that work within the offices and the National Weather Service and everyone that pretty much put in their part in their effort to, make sure that our public was safe in such a really huge and catastrophic event to say.
And the local broadcast networks, if you're from around the Houston area, you may have noticed that they went on 24-hour runs, and basically people there slept in the stations as well, meteorologists. And in fact, one station got flooded, but that didn't stop them from presenting to the public important information about evacuation areas or shelters. And of course, extremely important is what to do after the storm.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot was already taken into account before the storm. We had to take into account the logistics, the predictions, the forecasting, but of course after the storm is a completely new story and you have to start back to page one. And a lot of volunteers, it all started here within the Aggie family as well, and that's the first one I wanted to touch base on. Our Aggie family immediately responded to these sorts of things. Like as soon as this hurricane hit, in a matter of a few days, like an organization was already made here on campus to beat the hell out of Harvey, and they got a lot of funds, a lot of contributions back out to our community. That was essential for these people because with those 60 inches of rain, with those really strong wind gusts, a lot of these people completely lost everything. And we've heard around in the news as well that, even organizations such as the Red Cross, there were just so many people displaced. It was just so hard to distribute everything, and just volunteers within our own Aggie network stepped out. Students that had exams the next couple of days, they went down that weekend to help out and help build. And even up till today, an organization, Line Water, is actually going to go out this weekend. They're going to go out and help people. They put out their numbers, they put out their contact information, things that you don't really hear about often. But it's just that selfless service component of our Aggie core values that we have truly showed in this sort of catastrophe. So I definitely want to show some recognition to our own Aggie family that has contributed in these storm relief efforts.
Religious organizations, we should not forget about them. They were extremely important. Plenty of churches helped out a lot. That's some churches where supplies were delivered and distributed, and individuals. I'm pretty sure you all have heard about what J.J. Watt did. He donated a lot of money, and that was out of pure heart.
Definitely, and of course, friends and neighbors. A lot of people went out of their ways. You saw that all throughout social media. Like with the first responders being really busy, they couldn't really keep an account of how many people needed help. And you would see on social media, like shoot me a text to this number, give me a call to this number if you guys need help. I have an extra boat out here that I can come help and pick you up. It wasn't just organizations, it was these just same individuals, just your neighbors that came out and helped. And Harvey definitely brought our whole state together in that sense, to where all of us were just caring for one another, and we reached out to everybody and made sure that everybody was fine after such a catastrophic event.
So, as y'all may know, the big building, the O&M, that's housed to the Texas A&M Meteorology program, and that's a pretty small program. And I'm part of it, Joseph is part of it, and people don't usually notice us. So these are some of the meteorologists that have come out of here.
Yeah, speak over a few.
Senator Monroy, do you have a motion? Motion has been made. Are there any seconds? Seeing multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of presentation by 5 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes.
So again, meteorologists from the Aggie family. I'll begin with Travis Herzog. He graduated in 2004, and he was there on social media, on broadcast. He did not stop informing people and remaining calm, which is pretty important in such a unprecedented storm.
Shel Winkley, I actually had the opportunity to intern with him this past year, and I've gotten to know him on a personal level, to where I see him every day waking up, even when he's not at work, he's tweeting out, he's giving out directions and instructions to our community. And even though here in the Brazos Valley we didn't get such strong effects, there was a time in Saturday morning when we saw some of those outer bands of the hurricane bring some tornado warnings. Even that tornado warning here in College Station, I don't know if you guys remember that code maroon that day. Shel Winkley was definitely on top of that. He kept the whole Brazos Valley communicated, and they let us know. I mean, at least for us here, it's more of a severe weather threat rather than a strong wind threat. And I know that with hurricanes, tornadoes can spontaneously start happening, and he was up there the whole day at the station and making sure that our community was safe and knew exactly what to do in case of that scenario. So yeah, he also graduated from A&M back in 2007, and it's funny because he once interned there and now he's the chief meteorologist.
Jeff Lindner, he is a meteorologist in the Harris County Flood Control District, and I will touch up on him next.
Scott Overpeck. Overall, he works at the National Weather Service, and National Weather Service are the people that give out these hurricane, tropical storm warnings, tornado warnings, and all sorts of these things. So they actually have a really important role to play. And a lot of these people at the National Weather Service, yes, the office stays open 24/7, but all of them volunteer to actually sleep in throughout the next couple 3 to 4 days, and not see their families that whole entire time, because they wanted to make sure that our community was safe. So people like Scott Overpeck, which is a true Aggie from here, from College Station, had definitely put in his part in help making sure that our community was safe and knew exactly what to do.
So Jeff Lindner, he graduated here in 2004, and as I mentioned, he's a meteorologist in the Harris County Flood Control District, which is in charge of the bayous and to make sure they don't flood and how to respond to them at its reservoir, as you all may have heard. So the thing that happened was that he's a meteorologist, of course, for them. So he was there in the Harris County Emergency Response office, and broadcast stations interviewed him, and he remained calm. And if you woke up at 2 in the morning, you saw him answering questions from viewers and people that were scared. He remained calm. He talked them through it. He gave some accurate information about what to do. And as you see there, he was featured on plenty of news sites like NPR.
And this is just a snippet of what we pretty much co-wrote here, and just to read it a little bit, the Texas A&M University Student Senate gives thanks to first responders, emergency managers, elected officials, and our friends and neighbors. And that's just to note that this wasn't an individual effort. There was nobody really was he's the true hero of this event. It was a whole community effort where we all stepped in, put in our part, and made sure that everybody there was safe. And of course, we also mentioned the meteorologists that did put in their part as well to make sure that everybody was informed and knew exactly what to expect within the next couple of hours when that event did occur.
So I wanted to point out this clause. The Texas A&M University Senate gives special recognition and thanks to our very own fellow Aggies who gave their absolute best efforts and embodied the Aggie core values of selfless service, leadership, and excellence during a historical storm. To them, we say the loudest and proudest. So it's a resolution, so probably we should do it. And I should mention that I never whooped in public yet. So.
And of course that of course like this a lot of coverage, a lot of media coverage definitely went to the Houston metropolitan area. But I do want to mention that of course other areas were directly affected by Hurricane Harvey. How, like for example, whenever it was a Category 4 storm, it touched down right around the Port Aransas area, and that area was never mentioned. So yes, while a lot of the flooding did happen in Houston, a lot of the wind impacts actually happened more along the coast. Something important that we wanted to mention in this resolution as well is that not only are we Houston strong, but we're Texas strong, because not only did the coastal areas kind of react and start helping out and serving their communities, it was more than that. It was our own area here. It was back in Dallas. It was even up to El Paso. People were determined and, driven to help these communities out. And in such a time of need, it definitely brought some tears to my eyes when I saw all of this unravel in a sense.
1 minute.
So what can we do? The effort is not over yet. Just like there were so many things that we can contribute in Hurricane Harvey, we definitely still need a lot of things as to Hurricane Maria and Irma, because yes, we were affected by one hurricane, but there's been areas in the United States that were affected by 2 or even 3 tropical systems. And something important that you can definitely do is donate to the Puerto Rican Student Association, because Puerto Ricans definitely need more funds, and they definitely need more help, more allocation of funds to their area.
30 seconds.
I should mention, I'm from Houston, and I understand that.
Senator Monroy, did you have a motion? The motion has been made. Are there any seconds? Being multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of presentation by 1 minute, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. 20 seconds.
Mexico City earthquake, don't forget about that. Hurricane Irma, totally devastating from Florida. Please don't forget about that. And the California wildfires, they are still ongoing. Don't forget about that. Please donate.
With that, thank you so much for hearing us out, and definitely want to put this resolution out.
All right, are there any questions for the presenters? Seeing none, we will move into creative debate. You guys can step off the floor. Is there any debate against the bill? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We will now move into creative voting. All those in favor of passing SR 7007, Harvey Spears resolution, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. We will now continue with old business, starting with SB 7004, the Good Samaritan Law Reformation Bill. If the bill presenters could make their way down to the floor, you have 10 minutes, starting at Harvey.
All right, howdy, Senate. So this is the Good Samaritan Reformation law bill that we talked about last time. I'm going to let the bill presenters give you guys more information on it.
I'm Katie Valerie. I'm part of the LR Commission.
I'm Valentina Kovar. I'm also an LR Commission member.
So over the past 15 years, drug overdose in Texas has gone up by 78%, and most of these deaths occur in the presence of other users. And the number of calls made to 911 is well below half of that. The Good Samaritan Reformation Bill would grant protection to those seeking medical attention due to impairment from drug abuse, meaning in a drug overdose situation, the first minor to call 911, as well as the incapacitated person, are protected from legal prosecution. Please keep in mind, this bill extends only to those who are first to call, remain on the scene until help arrives, and cooperates with medical services and law enforcement. The main purpose of the bill is to save lives.
take into account the number of Aggies' lives drug overdoses affected and could save.
Accidental drug overdose is the leading cause of death in the United States. It is clear that it should impact minors all around the state of Texas and the nation. This bill will also be presented during the Texas Student Government Coalition Talk Conference. Washington Harvey University represented. It is careful to lead the way.
37 states and the District of Columbia have already enacted laws that encourage users of illegal drugs to call for aid during an overdose. Texas lawmakers are aware of the issue and are beginning to take action. In the past legislative session, Senator Watson and Representative Yan have had some success and are supported the issue will play an important role in advocating and advancing its realization. Here are a few facts of the vital role Good Samaritan can play in the life of an Aggie. So, both the incapacitated minor and the minor who make their call are protected through the legislation, like we said. So why only one person? The goal of the bill is to save lives that are on the line, not to provide immunity for crimes and everyone in the situation. And minor changes were made in committee meeting to the bill during its time. The removal of reference to alcohol in whereas 1, 2, and 4, a possible alcohol was also removed to be enacted 3. Thank you, and now we'll take questions.
All right, are there any questions for the presenters? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate. If the presenters could step off the floor. Is there any debate against the bill? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We'll now move into a period of voting. All those in favor of passing SB 7004, the Good Samaritan Law Reformation Bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. We will now move into the consideration of SB 7005, the open source textbook bill. So if all those presenters can come down to the floor, you have 10 minutes starting at Harvey.
The open source presentation. Keep going. One more. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Howdy, Senate. Howdy. Okay, so this is our second one. It's open source textbooks. I'm going to let the bill sponsors from LR and Senate give you guys a little information about it.
Howdy, Senate. My name is Colton. I'm from the Legislative Relations Commission. And first of all, I'll start by defining an open source textbook. I know last time I kind of gave a little general definition about it. So essentially, an open source textbook is a free online access textbook that is the same integrity and content of a hard copy textbook. Dean Carlson of the Texas A&M University Libraries defined that for us and said specifically to mention that it is a textbook that maintains hard copy and content.
The only changes we made to the bill in committee were a stronger definition for what an open source textbook is, and we just, I guess, further elaborated on the incentives that a professor could get if they decided to write or use an open source textbook. That's it. Nothing major.
Last time we talked to you about a survey we took. I'll just touch on that briefly. We found, based on 30 students, that the average textbook expenditure was $328, which is a lot of money. It can also compromise most of your scholarship if you get something like a $500 scholarship. It makes a big impact on you. I'll now cover the 3 incentives for usage that professors will want to be looking at when they're considering using an open source textbook: customization, accessibility, and the retention aspects. So customization, hard copy textbooks are bound by all kinds of copyright laws that prevents professors from actually going into the text and editing it, adding chapters, deleting chapters, stuff like that. Open source textbooks can be customized in any way the professor sees fit, adding homework, replacing chapters, adding new chapters, or just rewording the entire textbook. He also can control what the students see. So any distribution of the textbook or the homework, he can control. The students don't have full access unless he specifically grants it to them. We'll also talk about accessibility. Dean Carlson, again from A&M Libraries, mentioned that there were 2 biology courses which had 20% of the students without a textbook until almost the next semester. It's a very long process, and that was the publisher's fault. Open source textbooks are immediately accessible at the beginning of every semester, and that completely eliminates the publisher error that occurred here. Then retention. Retention is the last aspect of many of the assistant and lower level professors we've been looking at. The Student Government Textbook Award is something that we established back in 2015, and it allows the students of A&M to outright vote for their professor if they use open resources and use them in their curriculum on a daily basis. Dean Carlson and Dr. Herbert of A&M Libraries both mentioned that these were very crucial awards in a professor maintaining his tenure. And then the cost of implementation, which is the big thing many people are looking at. There are a lot of options when it comes to funding and not even funding open source textbooks at all. Very much, we just have to look for competitive incentives within Texas State Legislature and here at A&M. Big part of that will be the Excellence Initiative, which President Young will be introducing next week. We're hoping to apply for one of the big grants, which can range anywhere from $100,000 to $750,000. That'll be it. Any closing remarks and questions?
One other thing I would like to add is that over recent years, within Student Senate and LR and Executive Cabinet, one of the issues we pushed for is tax-free textbooks. This has been an issue that we've pushed since the early 2000s, trying to get the state legislature to pass. However, every year we've taken this to the state legislature, it's always failed because the state isn't in a position to cut taxes. For example, in this last legislative session, the state was out $2 billion, and the last thing they could do was cut more taxes on textbooks, no matter how the amount that it would have saved students or what would have cost the state. So therefore, taking advantage of open source textbooks is another route that will aid students in cutting the cost of their textbook prices, and it's one more likely where we can get traction at the state level to get that passed through and help benefit students in the long run.
If any of you guys are returning senators, you'll remember that Senator last year actually came and talked to us about the SGA Textbook Award. One of my international studies professors used all open source textbooks. So I had about, let's say, like 86 readings I had to do in an entire semester. All of those were accessed online in the beginning of the year. I had to pay a dime for that class for textbooks. And it was the most amazing thing, knowing that if I wanted to get ahead of my reading, I could go and literally just print it out. I have a Mac, so I could highlight, take notes all over my Mac. Didn't have to do anything. So I actually nominated her for that award, and she was awarded it. And now she's one step closer to getting her tenure, and she wrote me a bomb recommendation letter. So this stuff works. So teachers actually really advocate for that. I've got some classes this year that bounce between textbooks and open source textbooks. So that's actually happening here. Do you guys have any questions? Are there any questions for the presenters?
Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate if the presenters could step off the floor. Is there any debate against the bill? Seeing none, we will move into a period of voting. All those in favor of passing SB 7005, the open source textbook bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. We will now move into the consideration of SB 7006, the online sexual assault reporting bill. If the presenters could make their way to the floor, you have 10 minutes starting now.
All right, howdy Senate.
Howdy.
All right, so this is, almost y'all stop seeing my face soon. So this is our online sexual assault reporting system bill. We marked it up a little bit in committee. I'm gonna let the authors talk a little bit more about it, and yeah. Go ahead. Howdy.
Howdy.
My name is Cassie Tiger, and I'm from the Legislative Relations Committee. And I'm going to talk to you today about this bill. So what passed in Legislative Session 85 in the spring was Senate Bill 968, passed by Senator Watson. It basically requires all higher education institutions to adopt a policy on sexual assault that is applicable to students and employees at each institution.
This policy must be in the handbook that's handed out to students and employees and must be on the website for the university. This bill also requires the university to have an orientation for incoming students that are freshmen and transfer students about the sexual assault policy, and requires them to develop a public awareness campaign regarding this policy. It also ensures that victims, perpetrators, or people that have witnessed this crime are offered counseling by the university regarding that crime. The most important part it does is sets up an online reporting system for sexual assault. So what the system does, it is applicable to anyone that is witness or victim or is perpetrator of a crime for any student or employee at the institution, regardless of their location. So these people can get on this reporting system that's online through the website, and it allows them to report the offense either anonymously or putting in their name. And can allow them to put in any kind of information regarding the crime they know, if they know the person, pictures, details of the crime, that kind of thing. And it will be accessible through that institution's website. That's the only really kind of guidelines that are laid out by the bill. So one thing that we are trying to put into this bill are some of the deadlines that you can see, or criteria that you can see in our bill. So some of those things are, since it's an electronic record, trying to require a timestamp that will kind of just know whenever you put in information. And another thing that we're trying to require is that it cannot be edited or altered. So one thing that the timestamp in this editing or altering thing does is it allows it to be admissible in court, which is one thing that is not mentioned in the bill that was passed in the legislative session. It also continues to allow the reporter to remain anonymous. And that is protected through encrypted data that is held up with federal laws. And then it also allows you to support the report at any time. So you can either write up the report when the crime actually happens, you can do it later down the line, and you can save that, and it can be turned in right then, or it can be turned in 3 months down the line. So we kind of took this data we found through a site called Callisto. It is currently being used by the U.S. military. And it has shown some promising reports. It is a very new system, so we don't have a ton of data on it. But this is something that we're trying to put in because the bill that has been enacted by the legislature in the spring is very, very loose and doesn't really have a bunch of criteria that would help make it really a binding system and very applicable system to our university. So it is in effect right now. So universities all across the state of Texas are putting this bill or putting this system into works. And we are trying to require this system for Texas A&M to have these kind of binding criteria that can really make this reporting system active and admissible in court, and really kind of useful system for sexual assault. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for the presenters? Senator Sean Saney.
Sean Saney, off-campus senator. So why should we support this bill?
This bill,
Yeah, so this bill is all about, giving a voice to the victims who might otherwise not, might be afraid to come forward or for whatever reason it may be. So this is all about increasing ease of access. I mean, sexual assault is such a traumatic and horrific crime, and so a lot of times victims feel, guilt or like it's their fault, and that's not the case at all. So the heart of the bill, both from the Texas legislature and the edits that we made, was all about increasing privacy, making sure that all, the gaps were filled, that these users were protected, be it privacy, that there was that ease of access. I mean, part of what our bill says is that if a perpetrator is listed twice by 2 different victims, that generates a police report that either or victim can then submit. And so, I think that, this is something that affects everybody, so that's why you should get behind it, because this is about, protecting your fellow Aggies and giving them a voice and making sure that they're not ashamed to come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the presenters? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate. And if the presenters could please step off the floor. Is there any debate against the bill? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting. All those in favor of passing SB 7006, the online sexual assault reporting bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. We will now move into period of consideration for new business, starting with SB 7007, the student voter bill. If the bill presenters could please make their way down to the floor, you have 10 minutes starting at Harvey. Please stay in order.
All right, my face again. Okay, so this bill is going to be its first reading. It's called the Student Voter Bill. This is just going to give more access to college students who don't vote that much in all of our general elections, presidential and midterm. I'm going to let the bill authors, they are the masterminds behind this. I'm going to let them.
I'll just introduce myself before Rohan kind of takes the reins. My name's Jack Moody. For those y'all that don't know me, I represent the off-campus office.
I'm Ron Sethi. I'm part of the LR Commission. And voting in Texas in our demographic between 18 to 29 years old is abysmally low. It's actually one of the lowest in the country at 15% in primaries. The college population that we in Texas is 1.5 million, which is about 5% of the Texas population. We think that this bill allowing students to use student IDs and voter IDs will stimulate more voting among this demographic. So most of you are voting age, so you know that when you go to vote, you have to present a valid form of identification before you can go to the polls. What most people don't know is that there's two ways of doing that. The first, which most of you probably do, is use a primary form of identification. Those primary forms are usually DPS certified forms of identification or any federally given out form of identification, so driver's license, military ID, etc. The second form is called a supporting form of identification, which is called a supporting form of identification because it is something that supports the fact that you had a primary form of identification. So something like a bank statement or a work check or any other form of ID which you needed a primary form to get in the first place, i.e. like applying to a job, you needed a driver's license or a social security number to get that job. Therefore, this form of identification supports that. So when you couple this with a reasonable impediment declaration, which essentially is reasoning as to why you didn't have a primary form of identification, you're allowed to vote. So a little bit more about this reasonable impediment declaration. You basically fill it out and you sign it and you say why you weren't able to get a primary form of ID. There's some generic answers like lack of transportation or you lost it, things like that. But you can also write in why you don't have it, and these aren't subject to any sort of scrutiny. So there essentially, it really isn't a problem with the reasonable impediment declaration. So another thing about supporting forms of identification is that the address on the supporting form of identification doesn't matter. They just need a physical address. So for example, if you have a birth certificate in another state, that counts as a supporting form of identification. Other than that, our reasoning behind why student IDs can be a supporting form, which is, spoiler alert, what we're doing. The reasoning behind it is because the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board actually does ask every student that goes to a college for their residency status for tuition purposes. So anyone that's like international or a domestic student, they ask where you're from so they can determine tuition.
So some of y'all may know in the past, we've tried to do voter identification reform, but we've attempted to make student IDs a form of primary identification. So instead, our new approach is to make them secondary forms, as Rohan said. We believe that due to the residency requirements that Rohan stated before, they will meet any kind of requirement from the reasonable impediment declaration. And to get this bill passed, we'll send the LR team that advocated it. If anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions for the bill presenters? Seeing none, I will be sending that to the legislative committee. We will move into consideration of SB 7008, the Student Debt Literacy Bill. If the bill authors and presenters could please make their way down to the floor, you have 10 minutes starting at Harvey. Please stay in order.
Okay, so this is our final bill. It's called the Student Debt Literacy Bill. These authors are masterminds behind this. Quite frankly, they've explained it to me a million times and I kind of get confused, so I'm just gonna let them talk. So
Howdy.
Howdy.
I'm Hunt, and this is Katie.
Hi, we're both Fish Aides from the Legislative Relations Committee.
And today we're going to talk about student debt.
Okay, so on a national average, there's about $1.3 trillion in student debt that's been accumulated over 44 million people across the United States. About 1/3 of Texas A&M freshmen take out a loan for their first year of college, but average bachelor holders graduate with $27,000 in debt, and that's a national average, not a state average. Or that is a state average, I'm just kidding. But the national payment plan, the standard rate way in which you repay your student loans, is a 10-year payment plan. Unfortunately, the national average for actual repayment is over 21 years. But nonetheless, this is obviously much larger than 10 years, and so we, granted, have a student debt problem on our hands. The bill that we have crafted here, the important thing is we want the university to provide a report annually to students before they take out their student loans, which details the following.
So what we want them to tell the students is, one, an estimate of the total payoff amount they're going to be paying, and then a month, what that looks like monthly. So over the span of how many years that'll take, and then what that will look like every single month, so they can kind of visualize what they're getting into before they just agree to something and sign off on something so quickly. And so other states who have done this are Nebraska, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Virginia, and they've been really successful. So basically in Nebraska, when they passed this bill, the following year, 11% less loans were taken out, which saved them $31 million for those students, which is a huge amount of money. And so we see how that is helping students and saving lots of money. And so our goal is to help students become more informed so that they can become better borrowers.
Any questions?
Seeing multiple questions, I will start by recognizing Senator Clark.
Senator Clark on campus. Mentioned it briefly.
Briefly.
So basically, are y'all familiar that when you take out any type of loan that there's, I guess, a federal entrance council you have to go through? And my other question would be, I guess, how would this be different? Would it just be the state level putting this in, or how is it different from the entrance council, or is that the same?
Yeah, so my understanding of the counseling that you're talking about is it's an online program essentially, right, that you watch and then, right, so this differs in that it's a physical report the university has to provide to the students. It's also tailored to you specifically as the borrower. So it gives more specific information for your borrowing situation, whereas the counseling I think is a little bit more general. So it's just a more specific report.
Help provide you with all the information you could possibly want so you can make the most informed decision.
Senator Howe.
Hi, Senator Howe. My question is about that 11% of people who didn't end up getting a loan. What did they do? I want to see like the numbers on like, did people pursuing a bachelor's degree or education decrease, or were people discouraged from going to school because they saw how big that loan was going to be? That's
I'll answer that. I think that 11% is attributed to people who the loan wouldn't necessarily be their only option, and since they're more informed, because they're given the facts about the actual overall cost of the loan, they decided not to pursue that option. They maybe went down another path.
Sorry, Senator Rossi.
Question withdrawn.
Senator Westbrook.
Senator Westbrook on campus. My question is, it's a report that has to be generated every year. Who's going to generate the report? And if so, how are we going to pay for it? Require somebody else to be hired to do it, or additional work for somebody to do it?
I'll check it. Texas A&M would be generating a report from data given by the federal government. I don't know if it necessarily requires a new person to be hired. The scholarship office already probably has the ability to do that.
So my question is, my question is, whose time are we going to pay to do this? It requires time to generate this report, gather data, analyze it, and send it out. So how are we going to pay for this? We're going to have to increase tuition, we have to increase, take money from somebody else.
I think it's
That
important.
is, go ahead.
I just want to say, I think it's important to note, it's going to be an online report most likely. We're not talking about taking the time to physically like print out mailers. Yeah, it'd be an online report that would be generated.
We'll discuss it in committee, and I'll definitely have LR look into it, and I will get back to you.
Senator Hale.
Senator Hale, off-campus companies. Professional purpose.
Briefly.
With all due respect, this kind of seems like something that can be solved with widespread financial literacy. So, understanding compounding, understanding repayment, and all that stuff could be probably compounded into a money matters class. So, I guess my question is, why aren't we lobbying for a mandatory financial literacy class instead of this?
This is something, I'll let them talk for a second, but this is something that we as a student senate are working on. And this is something that LR is going to advocate at the state level. Obviously, we're going to try working this out with A&M. We can't make a mandatory class. Like as a student senate, that's something that LR can't really do right now. If you want to look at that, we would work with academic affairs. This is basically just making it easily accessible to Texas A&M students. Does that answer your question?
Also to contribute to that, I just graduated high school, and our senior year we were required to take a Money Matters class. It was like an online program similar to the sexual assault prevention class that we all had to take. But how many of us remember the actual slides from every single thing that we clicked through? It was the exact same thing with the Money Matters program. So I went through it. Can't say I learned much from it. So I fear that a similar program within the university would contribute to similar effects.
And then also to jump in on that again, as a
Senator
student.
Roberts, did you have a motion?
I'm sorry. Senator Roberts Powell would like to have a motion to extend the period of question and answer by 2 minutes.
Are there any seconds? Seeing multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 2 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes.
While I do feel a Money Matters class could even be beneficial as well, but when students do come to college, they arrive on A&M campus, they've already determined their student loans for at least that year, getting their finances in place. So that having that class taught at A&M wouldn't help them for that first year when they arrive. So to at least provide them with the information ahead of time where they would know what they're getting into, help them with that financial literacy process. And then if we did offer that class at A&M, this would provide that information for future years down the road where they would have that benefit of knowing that information ahead of time.
Senator Westbrook?
Question.
Senator Moreno?
Senator Moreno, College of Engineering. I'm not sure if you actually mentioned this in your presentation, but how would you make sure every single student does get this information? Because a student like myself, I took out loans my first few years, but something like this could have helped, at least to some extent. But how do you make sure every student, whether it be a freshman coming into college first year or a transfer student, does get this information, or
Sure, so the mechanism most likely be, like you said, an email that we send out to all borrowers. The university obviously has the information on who is borrowing. It's provided from the federal government. So, and they also have our email addresses as well. So it would just be an electronic report that would likely be emailed to the students. That'd be the delivery method.
Because this is not something that's like a private loan basis, it's strictly on the federal and university level. The university has easier access to the students and knows what federal loans they're offering the students. And so there's greater specificity in accessing students that aren't seeking private loans, but strictly through the school.
Senator Rossi?
Senator Rossi on campus. So have you ever considered making this part of, like, when freshmen come onto campus, have you ever considered making it part of their new student conference, like passing out information to advertise this program?
We can absolutely look into that. I don't know if that was something that we thought of beforehand, but we'll definitely have that on with that.
Senator Moreno?
Senator Miranda, College of Engineering. If we were honest with ourselves, do we actually look at all the emails that the university sends us? Make sure that if it's an email, if it is an email that says important, please read. Or some
Sorry, Senator Howell, do you have a motion?
I have a motion to extend the period.
Please state your name and conference.
Allison Hopkins, conference. I have a motion to extend the period of questions by 5 minutes.
For 5 minutes, are there any seconds? Seeing multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 5 minutes, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
That fails.
So the best thing that I can tell you for that answer, because obviously I think you're not a student at this university, if it's important to them and they see it, they're gonna read it. We can't, I'm sure everybody that came to a little flyer outside the MSC, chances of you actually reading every single one of them is pretty slim. I can attest to that. But if it's important to me, I'm gonna go searching for it, and we want that information to be available. That's why we're having this available to them.
In the end, it's up to the student. If they really want that information, they're going to read that email that they get from the university. And it's not a mass email. It's from the university to you about your personal information.
You sure if you got that academic standing notice, my heart kind of dropped.
Time has actually expired, so I will be sending this bill to the Legislative Affairs Committee. Alrighty, so that concludes the period of new business. We will now move into a period of open session. Does anyone have any business for open session? Chair Day. Chair Day, Finance, I have a bill for open session. Please describe your legislation.
Sure, it's a bill that allocates an additional $13.80 to add repayment for insurance purposes.
Okay. Are there any seconds to hear this bill? Seeing multiple, the candidates started having.
I have a motion.
Yes.
Chair Day Finance, I move to make this legislation emergency. Actually, give me my phone. I do have the code saying where and why I can't. If there's seconds.
Please.
Okay, so underneath the finance section for appropriation hearings, it says that hearings for funding requests outside the annual Student Government Association budget or for additional funding beyond the annual Student Government Association budget may be conducted at any time during the fall and spring academic semesters. This hearing was held. My committee voted to hear this bill. All funds not allocated by the Senate for the purposes of the Student Government Association budget shall be retained for future allocation at the discretion of the Student Senate in a standard appropriation statute introduced by a sponsor who's a student senator. And as far as emergency legislation, a bill that may acquire emergency legislation status during a Senate meeting if such action is called for by the author of the bill and approved by a 2/3 majority of the members and president voting. And the only bills that can't be emergency are bills that amend the Student Government Association code, and that's not what I'm doing. So, and emergency legislation is in order.
So does anyone have any questions about what was just stated? All right, so a motion has been made to consider this piece of legislation as emergency legislation. All those in favor of considering this bill as emergency legislation, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, that passes. Now I believe you have 10 minutes starting at Howdy.
All right, so howdy. Taylor Day, Finance Chair, this is just a bill. Okay, Replant contacted me over the weekend saying that their insurance premiums that they had asked for $150 for the upcoming year. I come up to a little bit more than they expected, and they're asking instead for an additional $13.80 to bring their total up to $163.80. I passed it by my committee. They were all cool with it. It's a very small allocation. It's just from those emergency funds that we held back. And they'd like to get it passed as soon as possible so they could get that insurance policy going so that it'll be ready. And they contacted me today saying, hey, you know, where's this extra money? And I said, hey, normally Senate passes it in 2 weeks, and that's why it has to be emergency, so we can get it done as soon as possible. And yes, I think that's it. Are there any questions?
All right, are there any questions for the bill presenter? Seeing none, because this is emergency legislation, we will immediately move into a period of debate. Is there any debate against this bill? Seeing none, we will move into a period of voting. All those in favor of passing, this would be SB 7009. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. We will now move back into consideration for open session. Does anyone else have any business for open session? Senator Chunga?
Brother Chunga, I'd like to bring a resolution.
Could you please state the name and description of your legislation.
The resolution for sentencing and dreamers to the resolution, and this resolution is for sentencing and dreamers.
Okay, are there any seconds to hear this legislation? Seeing multiple, you have 10 minutes starting out.
They also have a presentation of. So the other one? Yeah.
But send this out to the bottom first.
This, okay.
So we're gonna send it out to the body so everybody has it.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
So today I'm here to present a resolution that supports Dreamers. So most of you might be asking, so what is Dreamer? They are recipients of the program called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or in short, DACA. You all might have been heard about the program recently back in 2012 when it got introduced, or just a few weeks ago when it got rescinded. So I want to talk to you guys a little more about the program itself. Can we go on? Yeah. So to be accepted into the program, there are a lot of requirements that DACA recipients had to go through. So first is that they had to be under 31 years of age as of June 15, 2012, have to first come to the U.S. before the 16th birthday, live continuously in the U.S. from June 15, 2007 until the present, which was back in 2012. Were physically present in the United States on June 15, 2012, at alternative application, came to the U.S. without documents before June 15, 2012, or their lawful status expires after June 15, 2012. They have to be currently studying or graduated from high school or earn a certificate of completion of a high school or GED and have been honorably discharged from the Coast Guard or military. And especially the last thing, that they have not been convicted of a felony, certain significant misdemeanors, including a single DUI or 3 or more misdemeanors of any kind. And after that, they went through another process after the requirements were met. So DACA applicants had to go through the following process. So first of all, they had to get help. DACA applicants usually never applied alone. Most of them had to hire attorneys to file the applications, and those who didn't choose that route could end in having the application rejected, even after paying the fee of $495. After that, they had to collect different evidence, which is worth the following documents, which are proof of identifying date of birth, which is birth certificate, passport, school ID, proof of presence of U.S. on 6/15/2012, which is formal documents with names, dates prior to that 6/15/2012. Office documents are examples for school records, bank statements, credit card templates. Proof of 5 years of continuous residence in the U.S., which is also school records, financial records, medical records, or even religious certificates and volunteer records. Proof of school attendance, which could be a high school diploma or honorable discharge from the military. Proof of entering the U.S. before the age of 16, which once again, school records plays a huge role into proving that they were here before the time that the program started. And proof of ineligibility due to a criminal conviction of a threat to national security and public safety. All applicants had to be fingerprinted and subject to a background check of police, juvenile, and immigrant records. Criminal court records, juvenile court records, and records from the DMV, state criminal background check results at the FBI background checks, and stuff like that. And then to complete the application, they had to file 5 different other forms, which is G-28, which is the notice of entry of appearance as attorney, which is optional. G-1145, which is the e-notification, which is also optional to see how your status was doing. Form 182-1D, which is consideration for the actual program. Form 1765, which is the application for the work permit that they receive if they get approved of the program. And then Form I-765WS, which is the working, explaining your academic reason to work. And once the application was submitted, all the proper documents were there. They had to get different pictures of what they look like. The pay a fee of $495, and then they had to go through background for fingerprints and things like that. And then in the final steps, they had to with around 6 to 8 months on a decision if they were accepted to the program or not. And so, as you can see, there are approximately 800 DACA recipients in the United States. As you can see on this graph, most of them, it has increased since 2016. Next, please. And Texas has the second highest total DACA eligible population in the country with 271 individuals, following California, which is over 223,000 recipients. And according to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, as for the data as of March 21, 2017, it shows that Texas, a total of over 250,000 applicants were accepting and more than 200,000 applicants were approved. And so it's a huge misconception that DACA recipients only come from one country. But as you can see, DACA recipients come from many countries in South Central America and in countries in the Eastern Hemisphere as well, like South Korea and India. And the DACA program has helped many students pursue higher education, remain in school, and continue on the journey towards creating a better life for themselves. As you can see in the graph, 65% of recipients are enrolled in school, and out of the 65%, 92% are pursuing educational opportunities they previously could not, with 83% pursuing associates, 70% associates or bachelor degrees, and 17% either pursuing a PhD level or a master's degree. And many decided to attend great institutions like Texas A&M itself, because our university has admitted many degree-seeking undocumented and DACA recipients. I do not know the exact number of Aggies, undocumented Aggies, and DACA recipient Aggies admitted because that information is very classified. And lastly, not lastly, but I want to tell you a few stories of some DACA recipients that I've seen on the news. So Humans of New York recently did a few stories on DACA recipients that I really want to share with you because these stories really touch my heart. Two different stories, two different students attending schools in New York had the following to say. So the first picture is the lady on the left, and she quote, "I came to America when I was 6 years old. Mom said she brought us here so that we have opportunities. My goal was to get top 20 in my class, then go to college, then get a degree, and then get a job. I realized the truth my senior year. My guidance counselor told me I couldn't get a loan. I couldn't get financial aid. Even I could find a way to pay for school. I probably couldn't get a job. I searched really hard on the internet, and I found the dream, that U.S. scholarship. My mom was so excited when I got it. They're paying for me to go to Queens College, and my mom's really scared again because DACA got revoked. She's crying all the time at work. I try to tell her that no matter what happens, we're not going to die. We just might have to start over." In the next picture, the lady quoted, "When it came to apply for college, Ms. Rivera said the only one who helped me apply for DACA. She told me about the Dream That U.S. scholarship, and I didn't even want to apply, but I wasn't ready to give up. I had just accepted that I always work in restaurants like my mom. But Ms. Rivera made me apply. She said, what happened to the girl who always wanted to be a lawyer? I learned that I got the scholarship money in February, and now they're paying for my entire college." And lastly, the next picture is a documented student who graduated from Texas A&M, who's now attending Harvard University to pursue his master's. And in the article, it states that 8 years later, Garcia graduated magna cum laude as an undergraduate research scholar with bachelor's degrees in economics and philosophy from Texas A&M membership, Phi Beta Kappa Society. And as of fall 2015, he went to Harvard to explore the role and faith in the immigrant experience, a topic he knows so well. There are other touching stories on the experience of students who are now facing an unforeseeable future after the program ended on September 5th. Almost a month ago, many of these students are your lab partners, sit next to you in class, have sang the war hymn with you proudly and loudly at football games. They have taken moments with you at sober tabs and are leaders in different organizations in this institution. And this statement always sticks out to me because it reminds us that no matter where we come from, we're all part of the Aggie family, regardless of the communication status. Many different student senate have passed a resolution like this to support students like University of Iowa, University of Houston, and University of Texas. Many university presidents have also stated a support for DACA, including President Young. On September 6th, President Young delivered a statement, and he states, "I sincerely hope that the U.S. Congress will find a way through various considerations to determine a solution that honors the unique circumstances of these young people and their communities to lawfully pursuing the American dream of education, employment, and a tangible contribution to society." So with this resolution, I want to make you know that the TAMU Student Senate acknowledges and supports the Dreamers on this campus, and that we do not support any sort of discrimination against students with different documentation status. And that we recommend that Texas A&M within its means protect the current tuition rate of DACA students are paying, protect students from immigration officials on campus to the extent allowable by law, and highly recommend that Texas A&M University stand with the University of Texas system over 600 other institutions of higher education across the nation to formally and publicly support undocumented and DACA students.
1 minute.
Fellow senators, this resolution will touch the hearts of a vulnerable community here at Texas A&M. As leaders of this institution, we must uphold the oath we all took to represent all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university. And as the legislative branch of the Student Government Association, it is our primary purpose to serve as the voice of the student body to Texas A&M administration. Our commitment as Aggies is to take care of other Aggies. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Senator Roberts, College of Liberal Arts. I was curious as to, like, if you talked to the administrators, if you have what they said.
Yes, so this resolution actually was sent out to all SGA advisors. It was also sent out to Marco K. Quinn, the VP of Government Relations, and also Amy Smith, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer. And they approved of the writing of the bill itself, of the resolution itself.
Thank you.
Chair Day. Chair Day, Finance, can you briefly preface? Briefly, thank you. So I'm looking at the therefore let it be resolved 2, that the Texas A&M Student Senate recommends that Texas A&M University works in its means to protect the current tuition rate you're paying. Given that the way tuition works, you have a guaranteed fee that goes along with the HEPI for the year that you came in, and it compounds.
Sorry, Chair Black, do you have a motion?
Yes.
You listen?
Is there a specific part that you wanted to do? Pause it, choose the session. Therefore,
Let it be
let it be
resolved 2.
Yeah. Listen.
Okay, given that tuition each year guaranteed rate is normally compounded yearly by the higher education price index, and if not, it goes on a variable that moves along with the higher education price index. When you say that you want, let's see, the university to work within its means to protect the current tuition rate of Dreamers, what do you mean by that?
So current Dreamers, they a long time, a few years ago, there was a law passed in the state legislation to make every single one of them pay out of state international tuition, and right now they just pay if they were resided in Texas, just like any other in-state tuition person would, they would pay that rate. If they were out of state tuition, they would pay that rate. So just the same rate as they've been paying as of like 4 years ago.
Just to follow up.
I'll put you again. Chair Black? Senator Moreno?
Senator Moreno, College of Engineering. Are you aware of any other universities that have something similar to what you're presenting today?
Yes, like I mentioned in my presentation, the University of Texas has, the University of Iowa has, a University of Colorado has, and the University of Houston has.
Chair Day. Chair Day Finance. Would you be open to amending, let it be enacted brief, sorry, so that it reflects exactly what you just said? Because I feel that the way it's worded right now is a little bit ambiguous, but like stating definitely that because this almost happened, can we make sure that they continue to pay and stay open?
Yes.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Seeing none. Senator Salazar?
Senator Salazar, Culture Geosciences. So these people, undocumented, do they pay taxes?
Yes, they do.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of debate. If the presenter could please step off the floor.
Is there any debate against the bill? Yes, Chair Day.
Chair Day Finance, I would like to offer an amendment.
Please state your amendment.
I would like to change therefore let it be enacted to better reflect the nature of the actual item.
Could you state exactly what?
Okay, I would like it to say not that we're going to just broadly protect what tuition they have, but rather protect that they continue to pay in-state tuition versus international tuition.
Okay, we will now move into a period of debate against this amendment. Is there any debate against the amendment? Seeing none, debate is one-sided. All those in favor of amending, therefore let it resolve to reflect what Chair Day just stated, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passes. We still have the floor, Chair Day.
I yield my time to the floor.
Okay. Is there any more debate against this resolution? All right, seeing none, debate is one-sided. We will now move into a period of voting. All those in favor of passing, this will be SR 7008, the Support for Dreamer Students Resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That passes. All right. We will continue in open session. Yes, we will continue in open session. Is there any more legislation for open session? Chair Abdullah?
Chair Abdullah, CA,
Yes, please state your bill.
Matthew Gaines Statute Commemoration Bill. Bill advocating.
Please stay in order.
The bill advocating for the creation of a statute commemorating former Texas Senator Matthew Gaines on Texas A&M University.
Are there any seconds to this bill? All right, seeing multiple, you have 10 minutes starting at Harvey.
I'm not allowed to now. I get that confused. I don't know what I'm allowed to do.
Please stay in order.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy.
All right, so this isn't the first time a bill like this has came through the Senate, and it's not the first time the statue idea of Matthew Gaines has been forth on this campus. It's actually been about decades. So let me preface it real quick. Matthew Gaines was a former slave who became a state senator, and in his job as a senator, he did a lot of things that helped the greater Texas area, but also a point that he did was the land grant, the moral land grant that put Texas A&M campus here. So his work essentially allowed us to utilize that grant to build our wonderful university that we all love. But the problem is there's no kind of discussion of the history that he's played within Texas A&M. And so you really have to ask why. Well, the fact of the matter is that he was a man of color. He was a black male. And because of his work, and at the time that he was pretty much ostracized and essentially kicked out of the Texas Senate. Years later, he was shown to be proven, it was proven that the accusations against him were not true, but he was never given the seat back. And there has been motions over and over, time and time again, to put a statue of him on this campus. Back in the early 90s, there was an actual university committee that was specifically designated to put a recommendation of him on this campus. So they specifically gave a recommendation to put a statue of him on this campus. And they said, okay, do it. Here we are in 2017, and we still see no statue. So now, we are in 2017, and me, as well as a few other people, you can see them clearly, we've come together to pretty much formally request that a statue be placed on this campus. Now, we're not just any regular just students, but we are the people who are actually designated to represent those voices, those minority students on campus. We have people like the vice presidents of NAACP, people like the presidents of TEACH, people on this bill like Dr. Pugh, who is the Vice President of Student Affairs. So this isn't just any regular bill. This isn't just a one person saying this, but rather the communities that we say we are serving, the Aggie communities that we are all a part of, coming together to say, please put a statue on this campus. We want the representation. We need people that look like us on here. And so here we are now presenting the bill to you guys for this first reading. So with that, I'm open to questions.
All right, are there any questions for the presenter? I will start by recognizing Senator Crowe.
Senator Crowe, off-campus packet. So what exactly has this man done to impact Enid's campus?
Good question. So the fact that the campus is here is directly related to this man. He was an integral part of the making. It's kind of like asking, how does the architect of this building matter to me? Well, you're in this building, you're working here. So he's a vital part of the campus. He's a vital part of our able to even be here. He's a vital part of not just here, but also PV, which was also formed because of him. And they memorialized him as well. So why haven't we?
Commission follow-up?
I'll put you at the end. Senator Rossi.
Senator Rossi on campus. I know that there's a fund for this statue and that there's been problems like allocating the money to build the statue. What does this bill do in order to solve those problems?
Well, this bill specifically has us going through a request. So after this bill is passed, what would happen is the exec side would work with the Council of Built Environment, go through the formal process of requesting the forms to do so, and then that would be sent to President Young. After that's signed, the Association of Former Students would go ahead and help with the funding and get the statue in here by 2020. That answer your question? Oh, yes.
Senator Westbrook.
Senator Westbrook on campus. Quick question. If this guy put it into a role in getting the moral life passed here, Ron put a statue up of Lincoln president during that time, or just the moral representative in the House representative for the U.S., or any other senator representative that helped get this bill passed at the national or the state level?
Well, that's a great question. And it goes back to what we talk about significance and leadership. Now, he was a man who taught himself to teach himself to read by candlelight. He was a man who pretty much led the ground in terms of education, leadership. When you talk about these things, when you talk about Aggie values and self-service and leadership and integrity, what do you have a person who is directly exemplifying those values, who has been honored by the Texas Senate, who has been honored by pretty much a lot of other communities, but not by his own community. So why not?
First, follow-up.
I'll put you at the end. Senator Mendoza.
You said they approved it while back in the committee. Do you know specifically why it hasn't been done besides money, perhaps?
Nothing that has been codified, nothing that has been said, this is why we won't do it. It's just that we have not done it. So the committee actually did give the recommendation that they were supposed to do. They're supposed to look at the research, look at what they see, and then put out yes or no, and they pick yes. And yet here we are.
And also to your question, when the Aggie College Republicans did it, that was just kind of around the same time as bonfire. So that was kind of, do with bonfire things like that kind of messed up a little.
Chair Black.
Chair Black Food Services, Dr. Hughes on the bill. So what has he done?
So Dr. Peel is actually the one that helped set up the location and helped talk about, where to actually put it on campus. So we originally wanted to put it in between the Richard Koch building and the YMCA building, but that space is actually used by the class of '69. And after talking to him about different places on campus as well as places that, would have a lot of traffic and would have a lot of support and have a great way to teach about the history of Aggie land, that was the space he suggested. And he's also looking at people to help make the statue. So that was his contribution, and he wanted to be on it.
Minute and a half. Senator Roberts, did you have a motion?
Senator Roberts calls on the board to have a motion to extend the period of question and answer by 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
5
minutes?
5
minutes?
Sorry.
Are there any seconds? Seeing multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 5 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. And Senator Roberts, you're up for question.
Senator Roberts calls on the Liberal Arts Commission to briefly preference.
Briefly,
So I know Matthew Gaines has done a lot of things and actually helped like all those like students here, minorities and things like that. But I'm wondering, do you believe that having a statue on campus will actually like encourage and teach our minority students about some of the history that we're unaware of?
Definitely, and it's a big thing too. How often do we talk about the people of color that have contributed to this campus? How often do we even have a place to begin that discussion? You go around, you go through the campus, you see people like Brother, you see people like Sully, and you don't get a chance on campus when you're doing campus tours or when you're discussing the history of campus. You don't talk about the contributions of people of color. And so this is a great way to start that talking point. This is a great way to start talking about the complete history of IUN. It's a history that we all need to learn. Thank you for your question.
Senator Musil,
Good job.
Senator Crowe,
Senator Crowe, off-campus caucus, Commission briefing breakfast.
briefly.
So there's so many people who did so many things for this university, it's impossible to tell the entire history. Example would be Edward Cushing, who put his entire self on the line for our university back in the early 1900s. Personally wrote a check to make this university great again. So there's so many people, like the man you're talking about, and other people like Cushing's in our history that we need to put statues for all of them. So I'm still looking through the alignment that makes this guy more unique than all the other people who've constantly done things for the university.
That's a great question. And then we just go back to the recommendation that we had before. We had a whole committee discussing whether or not this should be done, whether or not he, as a person, deserved that right to have a statue, deserved that right to be commemorated in this way, and whether his contributions were significant enough to do so. And they said yes. And we already discussed the bonfire incident that kind of threw out everything that was happening, that kind of threw everything in the air. So when you go back to it, at the end of the day, the recommendation was yes, but we still haven't done it. And it's time to do it.
Senator Westbrook.
Senator Westbrook, off campus. My next question is, why not somebody directly involved in the university, say Frederick McClure, who student body president, literally less than a decade after desegregation? Why doesn't Fred have a statue or Matthew Gaines? Fred did so much for the university, still continues to do so much for the university right now.
I believe Frederick McClure was also for a statue for Matthew Gaines. So
I'm just asking the question.
I mean, why don't we? But if you have these same people who are saying, you know, why don't we pick him? Why don't we pick you? And they're telling you, pick him. So what's the point?
Do you believe that bringing up the statue will bring up a comfortable conversation with student body, especially with the history that we have at A&M and minorities?
I wouldn't call it a comfortable conversation, but I'd rather call it a conversation that needs to be happening. We need to talk about these things. We need to talk about our history and show that it wasn't just black and white. There are so many different colors that existed in the Aggie history. It's not just maroon and white, guys. So it's an opening point to that conversation, an opening point to the conversation of people of color's contribution on campus. And I'm glad that you mentioned Freddie McClure, because that's a perfect thing too. It's not just one person, but this one person can act as that gateway, act as that symbol that we can rally around. And that's why I think this is important.
Senator Musil.
Senator, who's on campus? I know you mentioned that you had a big study go forward, and it's kind of been touched on briefly, but you know, there's a lot of great men who have been here, as I was saying, including Clarence Sasser, for instance. What again, like, narrowed you down to this man in particular in that committee as like the reference point to you?
Well, you also have to think about, this isn't the first time this has been done. This has been going out since about as early as the 30s, the 1930s. So when you talk about, you know, real trailblazers and real people that have been existing in that history, this is pretty much the very first one. So if you're not going to acknowledge the first one, how are you going to have room to acknowledge everybody else?
Senator Johnson.
Senator Tilson, off-campus caucus. I was curious, earlier you were talking a little bit about where the money was going to come from. Do you have a little bit more detail about how we're going to pay for the statue?
So there has been discussions about funding, and the main point was to talk to the Association of Former Students. They pretty much do a lot of the funding with regards to statues on campus as well. So the Council of Built Environment is the environment that goes through the process to basically model the statue, go through the process of like discussing where it is, how it's going to be done. And then when that process is over, we get the whole final dollar amount. There's already been
Senator, Degree, do you have a version?
Yeah, Senator did great, College of Education. I motion for extension of question and answer by 5 minutes.
5 minutes, are there any seconds? Seeing multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 5 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes.
So they get a dollar amount from there. There's already been contributions previously for the statute because people have been working on this for so long. So it would be a combination of those two sources to pay for the statute.
Thank you.
No problem.
Senator Roberts?
Senator Roberts, College of Liberal Arts. Does Cushing have a library named after him?
I believe so, yes.
Senator Hale?
Senator Hale, off-campus caucus. A lot of statues around campus have like little inscriptions at the bottom. Can we have an inscription for this? And if y'all are supportive of that idea, do y'all have any ideas of what that inscription might say?
I mean, I'd be completely supportive of the inscription, but I'm not someone to suggest I'm as particular as, any other person on campus who, or even an architect. So whoever has the best real description to do so, or whoever is in charge of making the actual statue, I think they should be in charge of that, and then probably go through the proper reviewing process and do so.
Senator Moreno?
Senator Moreno, College of Engineering. So I'm wondering, why isn't there a statue for Abraham Lincoln on this campus? I mean, he did do a lot on this campus, right?
That's true. I don't know. Maybe after we get this game statue, we can go out and make statues for all the presidents that we've had. All the way from 144 and 44.
Senator Aranda?
Withdrawn.
Senator O'Jay?
Senator O'Jay, that's due to the fact that he's not a former student, I was curious as to funds and how you participate in securing funds from the Association of Former Students to put the statute for this man.
I know a lot of people specifically within my community, a lot of people that have been working on this campaign for so long have already been building up their money to do so. So this isn't just 1 year, 2 years, this is over 70 years of people who have been in line to do something like this. So it's not to say that it's because he wasn't a former student. He wasn't a student at all. So, but his contributions to Aggieland, his contributions to the foundation of Aggieland grant so much merit that we've been willing to work with them to make this happen.
Senator Banks?
Senator Banks on campus, kind of bringing it back to what Senator Moreno said, are there any other Aggies or, any other individuals important to the history of Aggieland who currently have plans to have a statue or some other type of honor in the future, such as Mr. Gaines?
Not that I know of, but I mean, this is the place to start.
Thank you.
Chair committees?
Chair committees off campus. I know some people are probably either not reading it or kind of struggling with your answer of what exactly he did. And so I know that he was a senator and I know he invited to the university. Could you give the body like a discrete answer of what exactly he did for Texas A&M?
So the Moral Land Grant Act was an act that went through, it came from the federal. It went through the Texas state legislature, and it was really Matthew Gaines' work, his primary leadership,
3 minutes.
and his trailblazing nature that helped us utilize that act to put Texas A&M on this land, as well as Prairie View A&M in 1876. So when you think about and talk about integral contributions to the campus, this man is essentially a founder of Texas A&M.
Thank you. Chair Day?
Finance, is it or is it not true that former students, organizations, and fundraising events have already been either planned or spoken about to find the funding for the statue?
It's true, yes.
Senator Christie?
Senator Christie, okay, this caucus. I know this is more about whether we'll have the statute try to pass it, but I was wondering if there's an ideal necessary location on campus, because the current statues we have are very prime locations. They're iconic on campus, but we wouldn't want this to get lost. So go ahead. I just wanted to.
Yes, it's right in the bill, right next to the new student services building, actually. So it's kind of right there, right next to Rudder, and the location was set forth by Dr. Pugh. So he's the vice president of student affairs. He was the one that actually suggested that location because of, he knew that other locations on campus already had people who had taken that land already. So this is land that has been unclaimed, that has been set for something, that hasn't been set for anything. And so now this is a great opportunity to put land right next to the MSC, right towards the middle of campus, where there's always going to be a high traffic of people. So a lot of people can be around here, and a lot of people can discuss that history of campus.
Senator Rossi,
Oh, withdrawn.
Senator Musil,
Senator Russo, on campus. So I know you mentioned you spoke with Dr. Pugh, kind of developing, with regards to not so much where you're going to place it, but has there any discussion with the campus architect? I know there's been a lot of talk lately about what else is going to happen on campus, the changes that are going to be made. Has any further step been made with him to kind of discuss potential locations as well?
Yeah, this is part of the process after the bill is passed. So essentially what exec does after this is all over, they work with the Council for the Built Environment to make sure that, they discuss with the architect on what it looks like, possible location, because this isn't solidified completely. This is kind of like the driving force. So there's already movements to do so. This is kind of like a final push. So a final kind of say-so from all students, and a request from us as well to actually put the statue here.
Thank you.
Senator Anderson,
Senator Anderson, Mays Business School Caucus. We're just the student senate, so wouldn't there be a higher power that has like the ultimate say in whether or not the statue gets built?
Yes, sir. And that's actually part of the process. So the Council for the Built Environment is the one that controls all the statues and all the different monuments that get put on campus. So after we fill out the process with them, it goes to the university president, who either says yes or no, checks off, and then the statue gets basically fixed.
Senator Randall,
Did you have a motion?
Yeah, I have a motion, Senator, on the last college deliver, I have a motion to extend period of question and answer back 5 minutes.
seeing multiple seconds, all those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 5 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Did you say Commissioner Paul? I'll put you at 10. Senator Reza.
So, suppose the bill gets passed, and do y'all know any approximate time it will take for the statute to be ready?
About 3 years towards
That was
2020.
out of order. You did not clear in the caucus. Just to see. Senator Moreno.
Senator Moreno, College of Engineering. When do you expect the session to actually be complete after this bill is passed?
So the timeline should be around 2020 because there's already moves to do this statute already. This is kind of like the final push as far as student senate goes. So it gets passed up and gets passed into the Council of Environment and should be on campus by 2020 at the same time as the opening of the student service.
Senator Anderson.
So what's our
That was out of
role?
order. You didn't sit your name in the caucus.
Senator Anderson, Mays Business School
Please take a
Caucus.
seat. You're out of order. Senator Grubmeyer.
Senator Hernandez, South. So after this bill gets passed, what's the next step of the take?
Thank you for asking that question. So after the bill gets passed, we send it to exec, we send it to the assistant vice president of provost of diversity. We have an interim one now, and the university president. And then from there, we take it to the Council of Built Environment, we fill out a complete form as to the specifics of the statute, where it's going to be, where it's located, and then send that off to the university president. When the university president approves, we start to collect the funds and bring everything together to start paying for it and make the statute.
Follow-up?
I'll put you at the end. Senator Anderson.
Senator Anderson, Mays Business School Caucus. So not to diminish our role as student senate, but what role do we really have in getting the statute built? I mean, could you get a group together and get all this legislation rolling through the university without our help?
This is also true, but this is kind of the primary voice for all students. So this isn't, like I said, we aren't just any random group of people. We are people that represent all the different minority voices on campus. So we're coming here directly as a kind of show of faith to the way that the Student Senate works and to go through the process with you guys so we can all go through this process together as a one Aggie family.
Chair Day.
Chair Day Finance. So during a recent meeting with student leaders and Dr. Pugh, there were things said regarding this bill coming through Student Senate and his opinion and about like development teams and all that kind of stuff behind it. Can you please explain what was said?
Basically, he really wants this bill to pass because this is already going through the process to be done. So to have a bunch of students say, no, we don't want to do this when there has been such a wide outpour from our side and from the general public to say, please do this, it's kind of spitting in the face of the work that they've already been doing on our behalf. So this is kind of like a show of faith to you guys, as well as a show of faith from that side to say, please do this because we already have this happen, and we don't want Student Senate to kind of have that reputation of getting in the way of what the university is already doing.
Senator Bredmeyer? Oh, sorry, Senator Hernandez. I'm so sorry. Senator Hernandez.
Senator Hernandez, who exactly takes over this after it goes to the Senate?
Yeah, so it would be done with the exec and the council for the built environment. They would work directly with architect as well as any other entities that are involved in that. So that process is a little fuzzy from my end, but I know that it's a pretty much straight shot from there.
All right, Senator OJ.
Senator OJ Cortez Caucus. There is some talk about how this has been sidelined for a long period of time and put on the table for years and years past. Can you elaborate on that for the student audience?
Okay, well, it's actually been a really long history. I've actually had a chance to look at the documents myself. I've seen newspapers that date all the way back from like the 30s to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 90s of people trying to get this thing passed. And so the major thing that we saw was the recommendation from the committee designated by the university to put that statue on there. And so they said, please put a statue. But because of the bonfire incident, everything really kind of went underway because the whole campus united around that. So when that happened, it kind of threw everything else and all the other stuff that was going on out the window. But as time progressed, we kind of regressed in the sense that we stopped looking at the Matthew Gaines issue, but it keeps coming back years and years and over again. And now it's at a point where we are pretty much straightforward already on that line to make it happen. But this is kind of the final push to do so.
Senator Westbrook?
Question was wrong.
Chair Day? Chair Day?
Sorry, Chair Day Finance. Is it or is it not true that the Matthew Gaines bill or some version of it has come up in the 68th session on April 12th, again in December of 2016, on 27th as another bill, again in the minutes in November 2nd of 2016, and before that on April 6th of 2016.
That's very true. And it just goes to show you how many times this just keeps reoccurring. And that's just from the last few sessions. This has been going on for literally decades.
30 seconds. With 30 seconds remaining, Senator Moreno.
Senator Moreno, how many years have passed since the time that they were supposed to correct the statute?
At least 20.
Pro Tem Cruz, withdrawn. Are there any more questions for the presenters? Seeing none, I will be sending that to the Constituency Affairs Committee. We will now continue in open session. Are there any more bills for open session? Yes, Chair Johnson.
Chair Johnson, I have a bill.
Please state the name of your bill and a brief description.
The name of the bill is the Zachary Johnson Solar Loss Committee update bill.
Okay. Are there any seconds to hear this bill? Seeing multiple, you have 10 minutes starting at Harvey.
Oh, sorry.
Please stay in order.
Do you know where? Oh, wait. Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, the second one I have. Okay. Yeah.
And then sending it to the, what's the email for sending it to everybody?
Just forward it. This will be resolved by next week, y'all. Sorry, the AV is down for this week.
Can you figure out how to send that? There he is. Okay.
Howdy, Senate.
Howdy. Howdy.
Well, this is a quick bill that deals with the updating the code to reflect when the collection of money occurs for the Sol Ross Penny Act, when it occurs, and when the person collecting the money in charge of that is appointed. So what we've changed, if you can scroll down. So the two things that we've changed, first off, is that we've changed the date of when the confirmation is. We changed that to November 1st. And that used to be in the code. It was in the spring, so we moved it to the fall. It reflects a better time frame. And then the second thing that we've edited is the current dates of collection. Those were edited from
June 1st to May 31st.
And that's been changed to November 1st until October 31st. Yes, October 31st, so that full period of 2 years. Those are the two changes, and then copy is going to be sent to Rules and Regs Chair to update the code. Chair Black, because it falls under his committee, and EVP and EVP of Operations. I'm welcome to any questions.
Are there any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, I will send that to Student Services. Right. All right. Are there any more bills for open session? Yes, Senator Rossi.
Have a bill for open session.
Could you please state the name and description of the bill?
The Route 7 Transportation Act.
Are there any seconds to hear this bill? Seeing multiple, you have 10 minutes starting how.
Excuse me. Is it this one?
Or that's the.
No?
Or that's the PowerPoint. Yeah, it was the one.
Over here?
But the PowerPoint is, yeah, right there.
Oh, you want to PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
You 2 minutes starting at how.
Howdy. So basically, I am proposing this bus route because it's very important. We have a lot of problems with transportation on this campus, and we've all seen the lines. We've seen people crowding the buses. Basically, what I did was I looked at the statistics and I said that this was probably the best option for Texas A&M when it came to a bus route that we can create in order to alleviate some of that traffic. What this bus route is basically suggesting, okay, so bus route 3, which runs out to West Campus, White Creek, services 3,975 students per day. And that's the third largest bus route on campus. So it's larger than any off-campus bus route even. And so basically what I'm suggesting is that we create another bus route that will service the students on West Campus as well, because you don't just have White Creek out there where you have a bunch of places out there. You have disability services. You have thousands of students that basically use the services out on West Campus. And this bill, what it will do is it will alleviate some of the traffic that we see with Route 3. And not only that, but it will provide a link between the south end of campus and West Campus. So people don't have to walk all the way to the MSC in order to get a bus to go back to White Creek. And not only that, there's another thing that this bill does. it provides a direct route from White Creek to West Campus Garage and at MSC to West Campus Garage. I had a lot of people say that there was a problem when it came to West Campus Garage because there's no route out there. There's no route that goes directly to West Campus Garage. And so what this does is it provides that direct route. And it's a very good bill. I think that it will definitely be very popular with the students. And I think that it's going to be something that really benefits this campus. It's, oh, I had other figures.
Next slide.
So as you can see, Route 3 Yelp practice services 3,925 students. And then the next slide, it's the third largest route on campus. The largest off-campus route services 3,875 students. And yet every off-campus route, aside from Fish Camp, gets 4 to 5 buses. Route 3 only gets 3 buses, and it services more students than any of these bus routes. And we need to treat White Creek as though it's an off-campus apartment, because while it is on campus, it is the only West Campus apartment that we see. It's the only it's the only residency that's on West Campus. And so and it's a 15-minute walk from main campus, and so we definitely need to treat it as though it's off campus. And I think that this bill will do a very good job at allowing the students more flexibility when it comes to the buses that they use and their transportation and the choices of transportation that they have. Okay, questions?
Senator Moody off campus. I think I saw on the diagram before, and you may have mentioned, I just want to ask, is there a stop or a destination on the south side of George Bush that this will get to?
Okay, so basically all of the stops are represented by the stars, and no, there isn't a stop, but that'd definitely be something that I would consider.
Senator Hale.
Senator Hale, off-campus buses. Have you contacted anyone at Executive Transit to discuss logistics of this? Where stops might be added, where stops might be best placed?
Okay, yes, I did contact Transportation Services 3 times, but they didn't respond, so I just went ahead with it. I think it's a great bill. It's going to do a lot of good for the students living on West Campus. I don't really think that right now the service that we have out there is adequate when it comes to helping the students with their transportation. So yeah.
Permission to follow up?
Question at the end. Senator Maples. Senator Clark.
Senator Clark on campus. So my question is about the symbols. So what do the stars mean and what do the yellow circles mean?
So yellow circles mean time points and stars are the waypoints. And basically the circles are when it announces that it's going to stop at a location.
30 seconds remaining, and we'll move to Senator Hale. Senator Revolution, do you have a motion?
Senator Robioso, on campus, I have a motion to extend the period of question and answer to by 3 minutes.
By 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Seeing multiple, all those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 3 minutes, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Please continue, Senator Hale.
Senator Hill, off-campus buses. I just wanted to follow up. I'm a bus driver and I have been for about 2 years. Believe me, I completely understand your frustrations with management, but I would really strongly suggest just trying to make a contact with them.
Okay.
Senator Revolution.
Senator Robioso, on campus, would getting to campus, would this route extend that time, to get White Creek to campus? Because the way that it looks, I know the original route is that it goes down.
Well, actually, it's going to help a lot of people because it's going to be the only bus route that stops at West Campus Garage where a lot of people are parked. Right now, you don't have a bus route that goes directly to West Campus Garage. You have a bus route that goes directly to the MSC, which is a 10-minute walk from the West Campus Garage. So not only will it stop at the West Campus Garage, but it's also going to stop at the MSC, and that's not going to, it's going to stop at the MSC like every other bus route, so it's not going to extend time at all.
Senator Compton.
Senator Compton, Cold Caucus. So I know the route from MSC to White Creek is approximately 15 minutes with a 5-minute point at MSC. How long do you propose this bus route to take from getting, say, from White Creek all the way back around to White Creek?
I haven't timed it yet, but I think that's going to be pretty short. I mean, it's going to definitely help the students that are on the south end of campus move from the south end of campus back to the west end of campus at a faster rate than when they have to walk to the MSC. Not only that, but it will help the students who are parked at West Campus Garage, because West Campus Garage is a 15-minute. Because West Campus Garage is a 15-minute walk from White Creek and from the west end of campus, and it's a 10-minute walk from the MSC. Right now, it's not close to anything, and we definitely need a bus route that goes directly there. Lots of people have supported this bus route. It's a good bus route. It's going to do a lot of good for the students.
Senator Musil.
Senator Musil, on campus, I know that one of the issues with having a bus route go to West Campus Garage, and I see in this chart, is that it crosses the railroad tracks. I know that that's a significant source of problems and causes bottlenecks. There's a reason
30 seconds.
They built the.
Senator Banks, did you have a motion?
Senator Banks on campus, motion to extend time of presentation by 2 minutes.
Okay, seeing multiple seconds. All those in favor of extending the period of question and answer by 2 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Yay.
That passes.
Do you have any plans to implement a change such that the route would not have to cross the railroad tracks? Because I feel like transportation services would not find that feasible.
Well, you have routes that cross the railroad tracks right now. I mean, so.
On campus?
Not on campus, but I mean, not on campus, but you have routes that cross the railroad tracks right now. But I mean, if I have to, I'll change it. I just think that it's a great thing that we'll have a route that goes straight to the West Campus Garage where so many people are parked, and that's so far away from a lot of the main points on campus. I think it's a very good thing that we're going to have that.
Senator Westbrook.
Senator Westbrook, if you contacted Madeline Dillard, I contacted her about a problem with transportation, she fixed it immediately.
Oh yes, I contacted her and she didn't respond. So, and I contacted her again and she didn't respond. So it's one of those things. But I think this is a really good bill, and I think it's going to work out.
Senator Wolf, Chair Wolf. I apologize.
Chair Wolf, African Affairs. So do you foresee, you're talking about it stopping in front of a campus garage, do you foresee any additional traffic issues with that, since it's not an area for the bus to pull over to cause more traffic buildup?
There might be traffic issues, yes.
Senator Banks.
Senator Banks on campus. From the perspective of somebody who lives in White Creek just trying to get to main campus to go to their classes for the day, is there any perceived change if this bill would become reality from the current situation? And if so, what would that be?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of perceived change. I mean, for one thing, it's going to stop at the West Campus Garage, but it's going to take a different route than the Route 3 takes.
Senator Clark. Oh yeah, Senator Clark.
Okay, Senator Clark on campus services. Isn't the, I guess, a reason for committees is to work out any change with bills?
Yes, it is. So what he's referencing to is all these questions. You should save them for when you head to committee if you're interested in how the bill turns out, instead of making your first presentation over.
I like the questions. They're good questions.
Senator, yeah, I'll push it at the end. Senator Robbio.
Withdraw.
Chair Day.
Chair Day, Finance, sorry, I know, questions and committee points. I know, okay, so, given that there is a bus route that goes, so right next to West Campus Garage, there's a lot called Lot 61, it's right next to it, right across the street actually, and directly on the other side of that, not even a 2-minute walk from West Campus Garage, there's a bus route that stops, picks up, and goes directly to the MSC. So how will this change that particular point of commute?
I don't know of any route that does that. It's not 2 minutes away. I can say that for a fact. It's not 2 minutes away. There's no route that stops 2 minutes away from West Campus Garage. Yeah. And also, not only that, but it's going to service students on the west end of campus that are trying to get to main campus or trying to get to West Campus Garage.
Senator Clark? Senator Westbrook?
Senator Westbrook on campus, federal advocate, who's gonna pay for new route buses and staffing for that route?
Well, actually, White Creek and a bunch of the new apartment complexes are set to make over $1 billion in the coming 20 years or so. So I think that we have enough funding to pay for a bus route.
All right, so that concludes the period of question and answer. I will be sending that to the student services bill. All right, we will move back into a period of open session. Are there any more bills for open session? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of committee reports, starting with Pro Temp Cruz.
Hey y'all, really proud of all the bills. Pro Temp Cruz, off-campus caucus. I'm really proud of all the legislation I saw today. Y'all have some really great ideas. And, I really like seeing that all kind of come to fruition right in front of me. If you guys have any bills or any ideas like that, I urge you to go to your committee leaders for guidance on it. I really trust them in their positions, and I think that they'll be able to guide you if you have any questions or anything like that. Other than that, have a great week.
Are there any questions for President Cruz?
Oh yeah, I get one.
Senator Hale.
Senator Hale, I'll take this one. Is there anything else?
I'm discussing that with Ali afterwards.
Are there any other questions for President Cruz? Seeing none, we will move to chair comments.
Chair committees, legislative affairs, on campus, yeah, same this. So we're gonna have our committee meeting on Wednesday at 7 o'clock here in Coldus. To the Senate body, if you guys have questions about student debt, student voting, those are gonna be each meeting this week. I'd love to see you guys there. If you can't make it, please feel free to email me any questions that you guys have. My email is on the drive. But text me, email me if you guys have any questions. I'd love to address them. As far as my committee goes, great job today, guys. We got 3 of them done. 2 in committee and more coming up next week. So sorry, Senate body, you're going to keep in my face. All right, any questions?
Are there any questions for chair committees? Seeing none, we'll move to chair day.
Chair day, finance, auditing, thanks for emergency stuff. Yeah, that was important. I'm not gonna have like a traditional meeting. I'm sending out some stuff to my team specifically, but also to all you guys about SOFAP. The SOFAP stuff's coming up on November 1st. And I want everyone to understand what SOFAP is and what they do and how all that works and why they come and talk to us anyway, because we don't actually like tell them what to do. But all that'll be in like a message. Other than that, self-help and I'm open.
Are there any questions for chair day? Seeing none, Chair Abdullah.
Chair Abdullah, CEA. I'll be opening up table hours for next week. I'll send all the emails. Everybody knows where it is, so that you guys want to see involved if you need to. As far as my committee, I'll meet outside real quick right after this, so that we have ourselves up and find out what we can do, and we can get some good about our committee. And if there's just anything you need to talk to me about, whether it's anything else, I'm not here. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Abdullah? Yes, Senator Compton.
Senator Compton, can you explain to some of our new members what tabling hours is?
Yeah. Tabling hours is basically where we all go to the MSC, Fulton home, the MSC, we get a table, have some legislation out, really just trying to get to the constituents that we have, talking about, superintendent asking questions, and kind of just pull this thing, see if we can find out more of their opinions and just talk to them for a little bit. So if you're there, be prepared to explain a little bit about Senate, talk about like what you
Please stay in order.
Talk about what you do as a senator, what kind of legislation comes through here, and just how to be involved.
Senator Roberts.
General Agriculture Liberal Arts, I'm not sure was, would your meeting actually possibly be open to people who want to sit down and just see what y'all discuss more into detail about certain bills, especially including the counties?
Yeah, of course. Whoever wants to be involved in that, just let me know and I'll give you guys the details.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, Chair Block?
Howdy, y'all.
Name and
So,
caucus.
Chair Block, so next year, bill, 2 bills on the committee. So we will be meeting sometime next week. I have questions to make our normal kind of Thursday when I was out for wedding. I'll be on the meeting and let y'all know what the most second best time was based on the legal form and how to use something else out to y'all. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Block? Seeing none, Chair Wolf?
Chair Wolf, Academic Affairs, not much update. I sent out a poll to set up a regular meeting time, so if y'all could just vote on that, and then I'll post that, if anybody else, but, any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none, Chair Johnson?
Mr. Johnson, rules and regulations. Not much to update. We're going to be going over a few bills that our committee was working on, that I'm working on as far as changes to the code and edits. So we have our meetings every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So before you shoot me a text, just to the group meeting, let me know if you have any questions. Any questions?
Any questions for Chair Johnson? Seeing none, we will now move into the executive report, starting with Student Body President Bobby Bush. We have 8 minutes, starting with Bobby.
Well, howdy, everybody.
Please stay in order.
So some stuff that exec's been up to lately. You've already been seeing a lot of the effects of it down here in terms of collaboration between Senate and exec, which I absolutely love. But a lot of what we're trying to do with this past week has been reviewing our code internally and getting things up to speed. We have found, unfortunately, that a lot of years in the past, SGA hasn't stuck to its own code, and people just kind of do whatever, unchallenged. And so that's not any good way for an organization to exist or develop into the future. So we're making sure that that starts to get revisited and revamped so that we have a set of procedures, rules, and whatnot that we actually follow, because that is going to be key to success. I'm sending out an email later this week about Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and soliciting a representative for that from this university, and also some different people to serve on some different committees with that. And then, pending being selected by that, you're going to be up for, confirmation from Greg Abbott and put in his office and then put into that position. So that's coming out later. We put out an email about that, and we're just waiting for bulk mail to send it through. Outside of that, mental health campaign is starting to kick off a lot. We're seeing a lot of collaboration between SGA and Department of Multicultural Services, DMS. They're really taking the lead on this. They decided to take the lead on this, and I'm so thankful for that, because they're doing a much needed service, especially with Aggies to Aggies, peer facilitators. They're doing great with it. And then we're getting collaboration with MSC, GPSC, a lot of different groups on campus. So that's once again just going to be achieving the most we possibly can. And I'm going to be looking to bring that back to the SEC SVPs. We've got University of Kentucky taking the lead on that right now with some videographers and whatnot, but we're going to try and tie that all in and make this just a really great thing that all of our campuses can move forward in together. Big event apps coming out soon. Costco, we're working on developing them and lobbying them pretty well. So that's just, more focusing on the executive branch as opposed to cabinet. Our committees, still a part of SGA, executive branch, just really trying to develop them and develop good relations with them. And so we've got a lot of good things coming up in that direction to make sure that their needs are addressed and that they do understand that they're a part of us and that we are all in the same organization and trying to achieve what's best for ourselves. So there's that. I gave SFAB presentation actually to their board the other day on behalf of all of SGA, so that includes Judicial, Senate, and then Executive Branch, including Cabinet and then the committees. Gave them an explanation. We did not request funds this year. We typically do not. Gave that presentation went well. Let them know what we were up to. Some of our priorities, things have already been accomplished. So keeping in good graces with SFAB, which is usually a top priority thing to do. And then also, fun fact, I had lunch with Fred McClure this last week. So if there's questions about it, please don't talk to me. I'd be glad to share any of the insight he shared with me, such as being enrolled for graduate student program, even though he was he didn't take like jury or anything, but his SVP term expired. Well, he graduated while he was still SVP, and then, dude, you're going to get into a graduate program, so you can say SVP. So they put him in that without asking him, and so he's got some stories, and I'd be glad to share those with you if you have any questions about him. But with that, I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for SVP Brooks? Being none, we will now move to Chief Justice. You have 8 minutes starting at Harvey.
Howdy, Senate. The only judicial court update I have is that we had 2 of our 6 judicial advocates resign. About a couple of days ago, we opened, last week, we opened a campus-wide application. You might have sent the email. We're interviewing people, and hopefully by this weekend, we'll have those 2 spots filled up. That is it. The only other thing I want to express, and I apologize for taking the personal liberty with that, and I promise not to comment on specific legislation given the position I hold, but the conversation that happened today around immigration, as a immigrant myself, as a legal immigrant myself, it's very striking how someone like me with money in my pocket to spend, with coming from a stable country, from a stable home and a stable family, coming with skills that this market wants and welcomes with open arms. But above all, the privilege of choice that I occupy, the fact that I got to choose to come here instead of escaping horrible conditions, escaping sheer need, and the vast difference in treatment from someone like me to someone else with real need. It's a very sobering thought, and certainly gives me cause to be grateful for where I come from and who I am getting to be today. That's all I have. You have a call.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice Khan? Seeing none, it is now my turn. All right, howdy, Senate. Howdy. So first order of business, we do have a Halloween meeting, which is like really fun and really festive. It's going to be the next meeting, so you can come in a Halloween costume. It can't be inappropriate. I shouldn't have to tell you what that means, but you know what I mean. We've had some really fun ones in the past, and I encourage you to do that. Please don't just come in t-shirt and shorts. It's not really like an excuse to just dress down, but it's kind of an opportunity for us to just have a little bit of fun. So as Chair Day said, next week we're going to have SUFAB presentations. And for those of you who are new and are not really familiar with what that is, it's the Student Affairs Fee Advisory Board. They advise the VPSA and also other entities on cuts and budgetary requests, and they renew the budget requests for student affairs departments at Texas A&M, and they're also responsible for renewing requests to increase student health center fees, recreational sports fees, and university center fees, and just providing fees and recommendations for the VPSA. So that's going to be really important. They're going to have a special presentation, and I encourage you guys to ask them questions. It's a really important role as Student Senate to also ask them questions and just kind of know what's going on. And then I wanted to briefly touch on Matthew Gaines this evening. So I had a meeting with Dr. Pugh earlier this week. This is something that I personally, when I was serving as a senator in the 69th, as the chair of diversity in the 69th, this was something that I pushed for very hard. As speaker, I'm not allowed to push for legislation as often anymore, but I do get to meet with him on these issues, and I do think that this is a very important one. And I wanted to clear up a couple of points that were made this evening. First of all, it's going to happen in the next 3 years or so, just like Chair Abdullah said. I would really recommend for you guys to actually read the text of the bill, and that if you genuinely feel very strongly against it, to go to his committee meeting and propose your changes. That's how we actually make change happen. I also recommend that you guys just learn a little bit more about him prior to coming to this next meeting, because he really is an integral figure in our history, and I think that that is to be noted as well. Also, there are actually 4 proposed locations. The preferred location is, yes, in front of the Student Services Building, and it will be entirely donor and privately funded. It was actually not the Association of Former Students, but actually the foundation that will be doing those gifts, and we're very confident that that money will come in very quickly and very efficiently. And essentially, the process will be, once it passes through the Senate, if it does, Bobby and I will write a proposal to the Council of Built Environment alongside of Dr. Pugh, who will present it to President Young. If he signs it, it's only a matter of time before we start collecting the funding, and it will be erected in time for the opening of the Student Services Building. And with the new Student Services Building, they actually ran out of money to work on the little landscaping on the outside, so it's actually a perfect opportunity for us to put a statue there, because the builders of that building themselves had stated, wow, I wish that we could have done a little bit more landscaping. Well, now we have landscaping, and it's a perfect opportunity for that, to fill that need as well. And I also just wanted to emphasize that if you're going to vote against something in this room, I highly encourage for you to vote against something. You are entitled to express your opinion, but if you have an issue with something, I encourage you to ask those questions. I encourage you to get on the floor and debate if you have a problem with something. And I encourage you to exercise your full range of power as a student senator and not just to vote against something. I've been in this body a pretty long time, and I've seen some things that have been really not great. And true change happens in this room when we're able to have that kind of dialogue. If we don't have that dialogue and you guys just vote against stuff because you can, that doesn't make sense to me. You're not being the full senator that you possibly can, and I wanted to emphasize that. So now that we're moving on to other things, the State of the University address is going to be on October 23rd with President Young. You guys are all invited to attend. There's going to be food, I believe, at the reception, so that's enough to get me to go. Also, Campus Sustainability Day is coming up. Also on October 23rd, if you guys pass through Rudder on that day, there's going to be free shirts, free food. I also work with the Office of Sustainability in my free time, so I'm going to be out there giving out the shirts, so if you want to come visit me, I'd love to see you. Also, Bobby and I, and also other members of top staff will be meeting with the new provost, as well as President Young coming up. I'm really excited to update you guys on how those meetings go. And then I just wanted to take a moment to commend everyone who presented a piece of legislation tonight, who spoke up, who asked a question, and who voiced their opinion this evening. I think that we're really, really taking a lot of steps forward to improving this university. And then just some housekeeping stuff with deadlines. I've noticed that I tell everyone that bills are due at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Yes, they are due at 6 p.m. on Sunday. But everyone likes to send them at 5:50 or 5:30, and that's not really helpful for me, just because sometimes a bill will come in and something will be off with it and I can't put it on the agenda, which is totally fine. But I want to make sure that there's enough time for me to send it back to you so that we can fix it, and then we can actually make sure that it gets on the agenda. Of course, bills can always be introduced during open session, but I just want to make sure that everyone is clear that that deadline doesn't mean wait until the very last minute and put me in a chokehold. And that's basically all that I've got, and I'm open for any questions at all.
Chair Day? Chair Day, Finance, is it not true that the State of the University address is up to 25th at 3 p.m. and not the 23rd?
Yes, my handwriting was wrong, you're right.
Okay.
Yes, it's October 25th at 3 p.m. It's over at the Bush School, I believe.
Are there any other questions? Senator Moreno?
Senator Moreno, College of Engineering. What was the dinner you mentioned? Something about free food and.
It gets everyone's attention, doesn't it? So I believe that at the State of the University address, there's going to be a reception and there's going to be orders served. That's just kind of my incentive to do all the time, but it's up to you.
Are there any other questions? Chair Day?
Chair Day, Finance. Why do you require that bills be sent on Sunday?
So the code explicitly says that they need to be sent in 4 days before. And also that's the way that we've always done it. Joseph and everyone else that I've ever worked with has had them sent in at 6 p.m. so that committee meetings, which happen afterwards, we have the agenda ready Friday to vote on them.
Commissioner follow-up. Granted, given the code states, by Article 1, Section 4, Item D, the agenda for meetings next year, conscription initiative, the agenda must only be compiled by at least 1 day before the meeting by Article 8, Section 4, Item A. The agenda must be approved by the majority of the items by Article 8, Section 4, Item C, which can happen in a meeting over group meeting or in person. And it also states that legislation submitted between 1 and 3 days prior to the Senate meeting to be placed on the agenda is actually approved by the majority of the officers. Why do you reprise this in the minimum 6 months on Sunday?
Because that's how Joseph did it, and that's how we've continued to do it for the last couple of sessions, and that's how Aaron Mitchell did it, that's how Hannah Weger did it, and that's how we will continue to do it. And if you would like to discuss it further, we can talk about it after the meeting.
Are there any other questions? Oh. Or more like Senator Chunga?
Senator Chunga, we have to
officers before this every meeting?
I believe there's an RSVP, but if you're interested,
30
just
seconds.
come and see it happen. Senator Roberts?
Senator Roberts, College of Liberal Arts, would it be possible that you could just send it out, maybe like to Senator White email or put it in the Facebook group so that so nobody can
10 seconds, yes. All right, the period of question and answer has closed. That concludes the executive report. I did it. We will now move into a period of closing roll call.
SBB Brooks.
Howdy.
Chief Justice Khanna.
Howdy.
Speaker Wang.
Howdy.
Chair Johnson.
Howdy.
Chair Wolf.
Howdy.
Chair Abdullah.
Howdy.
Chair Day.
Howdy.
Chair Black.
Howdy.
Chair Economides.
Howdy.
Chair Wilson. Senator Amin.
Howdy.
Senator Anderson.
Howdy.
Senator Andrus. Senator Ambula.
Howdy.
Senator Banks.
Howdy.
Senator Benke.
Howdy.
Senator Bredemeyer. Senator Brown. Senator Camp.
Howdy.
Senator Castleman.
Howdy.
Senator Christie.
Howdy.
Senator Chunga.
Howdy.
Senator Clark.
Howdy.
Senator Clark.
Sorry.
It's okay. Senator Collins. Senator Compton.
Howdy.
Please stay quiet. Senator Cook. Senator Cox. Senator DeGray.
Howdy.
Senator Demonteris. Senator Edmondson. Senator Evans.
Howdy.
Senator Hale.
Howdy.
Senator Aliob. Senator Jillian Hope. Senator Hernandez.
Howdy.
Senator Hong. Senator Hull.
Howdy.
Senator Jacobson. Senator Jacobson. Senator DeYoung. Senator Krogh. Julie Krogh. Senator Olivia Krogh. Senator Lisa Baya. Senator Little. Senator Little. Senator Mandel.
Howdy.
Senator Maples.
Howdy.
Senator McKay.
Howdy.
Senator Maloki.
Howdy.
Senator Mendoza.
Howdy.
Senator Monroy. Senator Moody.
Howdy.
Senator Moore. Senator Moreno.
Howdy.
Senator Missile.
Howdy.
Senator Ogier.
Howdy.
Senator Pardo. Senator Parker. Senator Peterson. Senator Phillips. Senator Powell. Senator Ramirez. Senator Reveloso.
Howdy.
Senator Reza. Senator Roberts. Howdy. Senator Rossi. Senator Salazar.
Howdy.
Senator Serrato. Senator Shah Hosseini. Senator Smart. Senator Smart. Senator Siegel. Senator Sweet. Senator Tilson. Senator Tran. Senator Walker. Senator Walther. Senator Warnke. Senator Westbrook. Thanks.
All right. Hey, I was just wondering if there is some bills you could print out for next week. I'm gonna get the fish rates on like mail, like some of our bills out. Okay. But there's some in like has to be signed. That needs some printing.
Tell me what they do. I feel like I'm not finding anything in this title. It's like such a cool title. And everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been like super busy. I've had a lot of like family stuff going on lately.
I feel better.
Yeah. No, thank you. What?
The box?
The box.
Oh my god. Is this live?